And from Anders, my apartment smells like burned plastic. So don't ever let on. I don't know. You were really taking a risk there, Doyle, letting Anders come to your
Yeah,
apartment in any way because he is a walking fire hazard.
he really is, man. I have to rethink the cat sitting situation. I trust Aaron, though. I completely trust Aaron.
Well,
It's
here's
just
what you could
Anders' problem.
take the knobs off the stove.
Yeah, that's what I used to do for parties in college.
Take the knobs off the stove. You know, do a little kid proofing. I got some hints for you. Ow! From KC Mo, you are listening to Extra Time, driven by Continental. From my basement, I'm Andrew Wiebe with my partners in soccer, David Goss, Matt Doyle. Oh, no, KC Mo is not the solution to, our problem, but my problem.
I would say it wasn't the worst one you've done so far, but I might just be numbing to the whole experience.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I think Casey Mo is pretty bad.
Okay, we'll flush that one.
I think it's pretty bad.
We'll come back to it. We'll hit the drawing board once again. Kansas City, Missouri is probably where it's going to stay. Got a big show for you, talking splash signings in Major League Soccer, FC Cincinnati. Would that be Papu Gomez? Do you even want Papu Gomez? Why do we keep talking about Papu Gomez? We're going to do that again. Talk about all the Americans abroad that are killing it. I believe 4 goals across the pond this weekend. A couple big debuts for Brenden Aaronson and Mark McKenzie. What else are we going to talk about? Run through Aaron Herrera in Serie A. I'm just reading off the sheet now. Is there something to go? Vancouver Whitecaps going for a Brazilian. Should we just do it? We should.
There's a lot to talk about, Wiebe. We could just talk about it.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Producing Anders, his reminder of the day here. It's getting pettier as the time goes on. Tom Brady may have 6 Super Bowl rings, but remember, Landon Donovan has 7 winners' medals, 6 MLS Cups, and 1 U.S. Open Cup. And you have also reminded us, Doyle, that he has a number of supporters' shields as well, but he doesn't have silverware for his supporters' shields.
Yeah, I don't think you get like a ring. I mean, it doesn't matter to me, but like maybe it's something that the supporters' trust should figure out. Like, give these guys. It doesn't have to be a ring, but like a little coin or something.
What do you think? Everyone's made of money? Get out of here.
Yeah, we could go keychain. You could go
you could do
a nice coaster.
You could do finger painted little like things that like congratulations and just mail them out to everyone.
I like that.
An affordable version.
I like that. Okay. Maybe a coupon book. You know, hey, 58th minute, we got to cheer for you. Hey, here we,
$1,000 in coupon.
Oh, yes, got to cash those in. Let us know. Honestly, I would be curious. Like, should the Supporter Shield winners get something?
Yes.
I mean, they get the shield, but they don't get something individual.
No, I get what you're saying. I'm just like, I will be angry at anybody who comes into the hot take hotline or their mailbag and says, no, they shouldn't. They should get something.
Thing. What Doyle doesn't understand is the lifeblood is supporters. The award is for the supporters and the club as a unifying sphere. For Doyle, who just reads the stats and looks at individual, he thinks it's about each person's thing. So personally, I think if you give everyone something individually, you ruin the whole thing.
I mean,
that's a really good point, David.
Versus
really good
the individual. Yeah, we're here together.
As the people representative on this board, I had to speak up.
Exactly. Oh, there is some news here. A targeted season start for Major League Soccer. That's the news you've been waiting for. April 2nd is what was released this afternoon. So April 2nd, go to MLSsoccer.com, the MLS app, to check out that storyline and see where that's headed. That makes sense. We heard CONCACAF come out with the schedule for CCL. That's starting April 6th. These things normally sort of go in lockstep, so that makes sense to me. We'll talk about that more as it becomes more concrete, and there's a little bit more to dig into. February 10th, though, I am petitioning to be a Major League Soccer holiday, or at the very least an extra time holiday. That is the CONCACAF Champions League draw. So, and different times, maybe, I don't know. We'll get on a live stream or something, have a couple brown liquors, and just enjoy that one really, really well. But February 11th, we'll talk about that. Let's just jump into it. Graham in Florida on Twitter. What or who would be the ideal realistic splash signing for every single club? We do not have time to do every club, but if you want to send in yours for your club or just suggest a club, we will tackle those at a later date. I'm going to start us off with Kun Aguero to LAFC. That is my realistic splash signing. I know people out there saying, oh, well, maybe he'll go to Barcelona to be with Lionel Messi. Maybe he wants to go to LA. Maybe he wants to be part of a triumvirate with Carlos Vela and one of Rocio Rodriguez. Him up top, hoovering up goals. It would be a beautiful thing. He's out of contract in like 6 months.
Genius.
You're just reading from my column from 2 weeks ago.
No,
You're just
come
reading.
on.
You just
No.
opened my column and read a paragraph.
I will
Good.
screen share. I will screen share right now. There is no column open. The only MLSsoccer.com tab I have is players sorted by age, which we'll get to in just a little bit. Although this kind of ties into that because I was thinking BWP and Kun Aguero. I mean, that could it not work? Could it not be something that you could convince Aguero of and say, look, I know you want to go to Barca, but it hasn't really been your season at Man City. Maybe it's time to just hang out in the sun in LA and also be part of a juggernaut that could win every single thing they're a part of.
Right. And so the issue is he's played 1 million minutes. He's played so many minutes for club and country over the past 15 years. And even though he's 32, he's not precisely like a young 32.
Because he started Atletico at 16.
Yeah, he started really young in like a top 5 league, and he's been amazing for a long time. But it could be a situation with like Higuain. Higuain came in last year, and he doesn't look like the same guy, and Aguero's roughly the same age. So if you're going to make a signing like this as LAFC, you have to do your due diligence. You have to make sure that he's fit and healthy in terms of more than just like carrying injuries. It's like, does he have the gas anymore? But if he does, as you said, Weeby, while quoting from my column,
I'm going to go look this up. I want to see how in-depth you went.
A front line of Vela, Aguero, and either Rossi or Rodriguez, that front line scores 100 goals in MLS. That's just absolutely absurd. And if LAFC sell one of Rossi or Rodriguez this window, which I expect them to do, even though there hasn't been much in the air, they have the DP slot open, and they certainly have the ownership group that has shown the ability to be aggressive and get big moves done.
And if you don't have to pay a transfer fee,
they've never made a move for a guy at this age on this number, though. And Vela wasn't a sell-on. Not saying that, but like this is a different mold than what LAFC have done.
But it's not a different mold than what MLS has done.
Yeah,
like Kun Aguero is much more in the wheelhouse of what MLS has done historically over the past 14 years since the DP rule came about. Like Kun Aguero is much more in the mold than Brian Rodriguez was.
Mm-hmm.
But couldn't you think about it this way? So you have this, and we still haven't seen it confirmed, although they're, the Athletic and Sam and Paul are reporting things all over the young DP or young money thing. Mm-hmm. So if you want to go back to, as you said, Dave, because I agree with you, this has not been the MO for LAFC at all, other than Vela, who was the centerpiece, sort of like the sun that everything orbits around. If you have those two spots, and you can conceivably still go do that, and still have an open DP slot, and you have Carlos Vela, who the last year you just saw sort of flash before your eyes, like life without Vela, and also the title possibilities when you do have Carlos Vela. What if you're LAFC, you're like, look, we want to win MLS Cup. We want to win the CONCACAF Champions League. We want to win everything. What if we have Kun Aguero at like 85% for 2 years? Or, look, ideally 100%, but I'm just sort of speculating here. Like maybe then under those roster rules, it could make sense. I don't know. I'm just stealing from Doyle's column. So what are you going to do?
Let me just add one more thing. There is another factor to consider here is that if Kun Aguero comes in and he's 85%, he's still going to score a lot of goals in MLS. And that's going to make whichever young winger or whichever young attacking midfielder that you bought for $3 million and want to sell for $13 million, that's going to make them look that much better. So there is like not just an on-field thing here, and there's not just like cash outlay. There's also the fact that if Brian Rodriguez is feeding Aguero and Vela, he's going to have 100 assists, and suddenly it's going to be possible to think about maybe a $20 million transfer fee for him. So it's like and I'm sure like these teams are smart now. They understand all this stuff better than we do. But it is the type of move that I wouldn't be shocked to see LAFC make because as you said, they want to win everything, and having a player like Kun Aguero there certainly makes that seem more realistic.
Also feels like there's some depth at play in here, and we'll finish it after this. I'll let you guys take the floor for something that's not purloined. Musovski, I know, look, I'm a big Danny Musovski guy. He scored some big goals for them last year. If you need to rest Kun Aguero, rest him. Like, and then you went and got Corey Baird. He could fill that spot.
Yeah,
like, if you need to rotate on a wing, like.
But let's just say the example is, let's say Rossi, Aguero, and Vela combined, they give you 100 goals. but you get 65 goals, but you get to play Danny Trejo and talk about it.
Right.
What is better? What is the formula to connect those things? Because you got to think about it. That's value. That's unexpected value. Someone look at the deep analytics on that.
Yeah, we need somebody with an advanced degree to dig into that and really pull out some of the underlying.
It is a deep
numbers.
Value week, so
hugely so. What else? What do you got out here? Give me a pie in the sky, Dave. Give me a dream.
Splash? Oh, you want Splash?
Oh, I do want Splash.
Boy.
I'm
Welcome
not going
to
to name a
Splash Mountain.
33-year-old Argentine
He's
who
32.
fits the mold. I'm going to destroy the wheel in the mold and talk about a player whose contract is up in June of 2021, who's a musician, wants to go to a city where there's music and culture. I'm talking about in your prime Memphis Depay to Atlanta United. I have talked about this for 2 years now, and now is the moment. No transfer fee. Blow him out with the contract. Break the mold. Atlanta United, are you a game-changing club? Are you something new? Keep changing the game. That's your splash signing right there. That's how you do it.
So you're signing Depay as a winger.
It doesn't matter. He can play anywhere.
Okay. All right.
He will have 30 and 30 in 1 year in MLS.
You're signing him as an icon.
Write it
That's
down.
what you're doing, Doyle.
But wait a minute. He's already
Use your imagination.
He's already
Icon.
failed. He's already failed at a big club, right? He already failed at Manchester United.
It was not a big club at the time.
So you're going to send him to a bigger club and expect him to deal with the pressure of Atlanta United?
He doesn't have to play under David Moyes. That's the release that you give him. This is the opportunity he needs. He skips on Barca because it's old news.
Right.
He wants something new and fresh, not something decrepit that's been ripped apart by the old system. And you go to Atlanta United.
So we're having a lot of fun here, but I don't feel like this is realistic.
He is on a free.
And what Graham asked for was the ideal, realistic splash signing.
Yeah, but people ask for things, and
I will wager you any amount of money that Memphis Depay's next contract will not be in MLS.
That's unfair because I don't get to control what's happening.
Yeah, and also
I could pitch him though, is what I'm saying.
What are the odds?
He's pitchable. Some people, I think, they're not going to come. It's not the right move for them. Memphis went to Man U, went back to Lyon, has chosen not to leave because he's comfortable. He likes it. I think he sees more than just, I have to play for the biggest name that's possible. So you go into him and you say, change this league, be the face of this. Let's put you in a Hawks jersey. Let's get you to Atlanta. Let's get some music videos rolled out. Let's have you be the future of Major League Soccer and of the sport. He'll still start for the Netherlands. It's all perfect.
He's been talking to Jurgen Locadia. And as long as he doesn't have to try spaghetti with chili on it, he's in. He is absolutely in. I am here for that one. Memphis, let's do it. Come on. We've already got hours at the studio booked, bro. You can come in, do whatever you want. Like, just show up on the weekends, banging goals with Joseph. Think about him and Joseph and the dynamic on the field. Personality overload. I need it now. I must have it. Forget Kun Aguero. LAFC is going to be fine without Kun Aguero.
Let's go.
All right, Doyle, bring us back
Joe
down
doesn't
to
have
earth.
to do one. He did 26.
Yeah, but we didn't all read them, so what?
Clearly,
That's fair. That's clear. Santos Borre to Minnesota United. Borre is in the final 6 months of his contract. He is a center forward, which is very obviously what Minnesota United need. As Adrian Heath said this past week, you don't have to be a brain surgeon to take a look at the roster and see that. He is kind of in the wheelhouse where he's in his prime. He's 25 years old, and he's really, really good, like good enough to start for a team that won Copa Libertadores, made the semifinals this past year. He tore it up in Copa Libertadores, but not quite good enough to break through for Colombia. So you don't lose him for international dates. He's also been to Europe, was on the books at Atletico Madrid for a while, didn't really make it there. So maybe he's not as enamored of going back to Europe. So this is the type of guy where I think if you find a big enough bag and you throw it at him, it's realistic for an MLS team to sign Santos Borre.
Do we think that Minnesota is prepared to chuck the bag again so quickly after Babello, or is this for them a step too far? Or is it the sort of situation where they've been building up to this sort of, like, not just outlay, but ambition? Because this would be a hugely ambitious signing on their part.
He's a bigger player in South America than Babello. he is on par with what Pity Martinez was when Pity was signed by Atlanta. I think he's a better player. I don't know if Minnesota's there, but if you look at the ROI they got from Babello, it suggests like, okay, maybe that is a type of investment that we should be looking for. Because again, it's one of those things where Babello didn't just make plays for himself; he made the whole team look better. He turned $80,000 players into $800,000 players with the way he was moving in attack. So getting a forward who can maybe do the same thing as well and is in his prime, and you won't be losing for international dates, it's out on the edge of realistic, but I do think it's realistic. But as with everything in this world of ours, it does come down to money.
What do we think of where Minnesota's at right now?
Doyle thought mine was unrealistic, but Minnesota dropping the bag 6 months later on a second player. That's bold.
I like it. I like it. I mean, look, Adrian had a good interview this weekend and kind of the state of where they're at. And I think he said, according to Andres, he said, it doesn't take an Einstein. Okay. Well, we're not Einsteins, but we're right on the edge of brain surgery. So where do they stand right now, Minnesota United? Like, one of the things he said that got me not just the most excited, but sort of the most hopeful was that Ike Opara could be back in 2021. And that was one of those really sort of, it became quiet because Minnesota stayed good and there was no real news coming out about Ike. But that was one of those really sad stories of 2020, is a guy who was at the absolute peak, basically the peak of what an MLS defender can be, and dragging Minnesota to the playoffs along with Ozzy and of course the rest of the squad as well, but really being sort of a single-handed game changer for them, not really getting to play at all. So if he comes back, if now you can choose between Boxall and Depay, if you have your outside back settled, if you maybe need a Molino-ish replacement, but you might have enough and you get a striker, what can this team be? And how important is it that they get that striker and that winger? I mean, it feels sort of like that's the make or break for Minnesota United. They could be average, above average, or they could be really, really good.
I mean, I think they're going to be an above average at the least team, regardless. But if they get a big time striker, then they are, amongst the favorites. They're in that first tier of teams that you think can win the Supporter Shield or MLS Cup. And they showed it, they showed it last year. They made the semifinals of the MLS's back tournament, and they made the semifinals, of the Western Conference Championship. They made they made a playoff run. If you add a DP caliber center forward, it doesn't have to be Santos Borre. It doesn't have to be someone who's literally been the best player in Copa Libertadores, but a very good MLS center forward and a very good winger on top of that, then they're right back there. They're right back in that mix. I
don't think I have no reason to say this. I don't think they're going to do both. I think Robin Lod is going to do one of those jobs, and they're going to spend to bring in the player somewhere else, because I think they still trust Ethan Finley to be a starter. They have zero center forward depth right now.
None.
So they need to bring. I think Foster Langdorf is the only one on the books.
And wasn't he about to retire before they brought him from USL last year?
No, Reno closed. Reno shut down shop.
I thought some of those guys were saying like this might even be the end.
Maybe because they didn't know what their future was. But so sure, they need to bring in depth there, which I don't know. Well, I think might happen in MLS, whatever it is. But I wouldn't be surprised if they kind of just try and push for one. They probably are looking for Luis Amarilla. Like, we mocked how many goals he was going to score, but he got hurt and they tried to bring him back. They picked up his rights again to negotiate with him before he signed with LDU Quito last week. I think that's the level of player they think they need because of what Babello Reynoso can do. It's his team now and his ability to elevate these players above what they've done. I think they've added the other thing, which was depth. They had Callum Montgomery, who's another center back option. Will Trapp as well. Dotson can play everywhere. So I think they've kind of figured out everything else except that one big piece. And then what they're going to do with Tomas Chacon, which
I was going to ask at the end of
always
that.
Fun.
Like, how far down do we have to dig to get to Tomas Chacon? Free Tomas. I don't see Ozzy Alonso on our depth chart right now.
Yeah, he's not. He hasn't signed yet. They say they're talking to him. Yeah.
All right, we'll see about Ozzy. We'll see about Minnesota.
But they signed Will Trapp, and Dotson can start alongside Gregush.
And those are both, good MLS players. But it's worth signing Ozzy and just limiting his minutes so that you have fresh for the playoffs, because he's still a better player than either of those guys.
All right, let's talk about Papu Gomez and let's get out our BS meter. How much is it beeping on this Papu Gomez stuff? I mean, like, is this real? Like, what is going on here? Why? And now it's coming from Italy, and they're saying that the transfer fee is like $7+ million and a contract offer at $10 million, almost $10 million a year. What?
Weeby's like, how do I?
Should I just become an agent and just start pumping this stuff out?
How many
just be like, I heard that.
How many casual fans do you think know who Papu Gomez is?
I barely know.
In Cincinnati,
who Papu
Ohio,
Gomez is.
I hear he has a deep following there. I think he played well in the high school football championship.
He's an icon in Atalanta. He's helped put that team on the map, and he has been their best player for more than half a decade. He has fallen out with the coach. He is in the last 6 months of his contract. He is very available. Hold
on. Tell me the story about him. You told me this story in the pre-meeting, Dave, and you say, Doyle, he had a falling out with his coach. I knew that part of it, but this is more than a falling out. This is like bridges are burning here. Like these guys.
Yeah, there's a lot that's gone on over the last few months, but the big thing that came out over the last few weeks is that apparently in like film sessions, because you need to create a reason why you're not playing your best player, Gasparini, the manager, has pointed out Papu Gomez being out of position in big moments to give up goals, counterattacks, not being available. Papu Gomez has responded to that, as you do, by going on Instagram and posting pictures of himself, circling himself, saying, I was in position, and saying, what do you guys think? The manager tells me I was wrong, which I think you've now reached that point where you're probably never going to play for that man again.
And so then it makes sense then and look, I'm not saying that this report in the Italian media, but many reports are seeded by agents, of course, that the agent would be out there saying, look at all these people interested in my player. I saw Sevilla was among those.
This was written as a Sevilla signing a year ago. 33-year-old Argentine to replace what you had from Banega a year ago, coming on a free, which is Sevilla's like bread and butter. This is a Sevilla signing through and through. And Papu Gomez has said, not more recently, but he has said, I would like to play Champions League, continue to. When he leaves, which Sevilla are already into the knockout stages of this year's Champions League, although I don't know if he could actually play for them because he's played for Atalanta. But the point being, Cincinnati is in a conversation. Whether they are the main team in it seems unlikely. There's a decent chance they're in it to drive up the number. There's also a chance that because the soccer world is wild, they get in this convo and all of a sudden one day everyone else leaves. And now Papu Gomez in Cincinnati are the only two people in the room. And then there's a decent chance Papu Gomez plays for FC Cincinnati.
Here's Teft on Twitter. Quote, why? Wait, I don't understand what he's asking this. Why FCC really isn't that bad? So let's ask this. They're kind of that bad. But we know Gomez is legit and would likely do very well in MLS if he's motivated. He turns 33. Would he be enough for Cincinnati to turn things around and win something in the next 1 or 2 years, assuming that you are getting about 2 high-level years out of it? And by the way, Anders wrote this question, which
explains why it's incoherent.
It's like 4 trains meeting at a
burning down his apartment. Can't read or write.
Could this actually elevate them? Like, if you're a Cincinnati fan, and I saw a meme on Reddit that I thought was pretty funny that was like FCC fans getting ready to enjoy soccer in the new stadium, and it was just a guy just bashing himself in places where it hurts really bad. Like, could this turn them around? What will it take? Or is it more than this? Like, if you got Papu Gomez, could that be the situation where you're like, we're a playoff team now? That's it.
Yes, it could. Wow. It wouldn't turn them around as a club. There are deeper issues as a club that need to be fixed for them to be better going forward. But the way MLS is structured, it will take them time to do that no matter what. And also, if you bring in a player of X quality, which very few teams in their scenario have ever done, because normally it's the same teams that bring those players in and they're competitive all the time, and he performs what you expect him to perform, you will be a playoff team in MLS. He may even be a 4 or 5 seed in the Eastern Conference because he has the potential to, he would be an MVP player. And so there's like some MLS teams that build solid rosters with no player like that, and they're fairly competitive. And there's other teams that are terrible, but he'll have a goal and an assist every single game that he's on the field, and that puts you in a lot of these games.
I'm looking at their roster, their depth chart right now, and I understand what David's saying because we've seen big stars make big differences for poor MLS teams in the past. They have 1, maybe 2 guys who are starting caliber players on playoff teams. They have Margarita and maybe Amaya. That's it. I don't think one DP fixes that. Like that, their central defense was a wreck last year, so they had to bunker the entire time. They only scored 12 goals because they never created chances. When they tried to come upfield and create chances, they got shredded defensively, so they would bunker back in. Okay, we'll try to counter and create chances on a counter. They couldn't finish anything. I mean,
you would bunker because you have a guy who can create on his own and with less pieces, which would help you defensively and then create more chances than what you have, and you hope it would unlock some of what Reynoso did in Minnesota for Locadia and
right,
Kubo.
And Kubo and Harris. I mean, that's a lot of ifs.
Yeah,
I think they would more likely be a team that misses the playoffs than one that makes the playoffs, whether or not they sign Papu Gomez.
Let me ask you this question. Regardless of Papu Gomez, that could help you out in this regard a lot. What odds would it take for you to take $1,000 out of your own bank account and bet on Jurgen Locadia hitting double-digit goals? What odds do you need?
Oh, wow.
Would
I mean, his loan
would 4 to 1? Would 4 to 1 do it?
No.
You have to go higher than 4 to 1.
I would just go to Wall Street Bets and yellow something there instead.
That's a question for you in Cincinnati then. What would it take? $1,000 your own money. What would it take? All right, let's transition a little bit here.
Can I just give the quick example, which is Darwin Quintero in Minnesota. And Quintero was not at the level that Papu Gomez is now, probably. And Minnesota maybe was better at the time, but not by much. And they'd kind of run themselves into the ground pretty quickly, similar to Cincinnati. And they were immediately competitive once they got Quintero on the field.
That's not true.
What?
That Minnesota were immediately competitive. They were in 2017. They finished on 35 points? I'm looking at the standings right now. They finished 9th in the West, 36 points, 47 goals scored, and 70 conceded. And that was without Quintero. So minus 23 goal differential, 36 points from 34 games. 2018 with Quintero, efforting
halfway, right?
2018 with Quintero, they finished 10th place in the West, 36 points from 34 games, 49 goals scored, so 2 more goals scored, 71 goals conceded. So they conceded.
But didn't he sign in July?
I mean, he tore it up to start, remember?
Yeah.
No, he put up, but that's the point. I don't doubt that Papu Gomez is going to put up numbers. I doubt whether there's a structure around him to actually make the team competitive while doing so, because Quintero did not really do that for Minnesota United.
Fair. But look, if you're Minnesota fans right now, you were on a high. We were talking about your team challenging for all the trophies, and then we just reminded you that you gave up 141 goals in 2 years.
So that year, Darwin had 11 goals, 15 assists, but in 27 games.
Yeah.
So if you had given him 7 more games, now you're looking at 15 and 20, maybe, whatever it is, which makes you a lot better. But yes,
they were not a different team with him out there. He was just putting up numbers.
Well, it was a different experience watching their games. They were in different ways in games.
Well, and look, we didn't talk about this part of the Papu Gomez thing. If you're Cincinnati, you are nearing the completion of your awesome, beautiful new stadium. You have many marches to the match that you must hype up, Minnesota, potentially.
They were opening a new building as well.
You need some sort of excitement around your team, and right now, the results are not where that's coming from. We do not know what's going to happen in this friendly with the U.S. men's national team, but we do know what's going on with Americans overseas. 4 goals this week. And Tyler Adams, his first Bundesliga goal. Weston McKennie put one in the back of the net, busted out the Harry Potter celebration, which I thought was pretty dope. Yeah, I didn't know a spell, so I didn't try that, but you did. So good job. Yeah. Jar Sargent with the laser beam. Brenden Aaronson, Mark McKenzie made debuts. The Canadians are doing their thing. Let's just do it this way. There's a lot to talk about. What's the one performance, the one player you want to highlight coming off this, Doyle? What did you see this weekend that either liked or still made you sort of raise your eyebrows a bit?
Well, I mean, I'm happy that Josh Sargent scored. And the goal itself and the way he turned, the way he moved, you could see, like, I still think he is the young forward in the pool with the highest upside, higher than Matthew Hoppe, higher than Daryl Dike or Io Ekinola or, anyone else that you want to throw out. You could see it. Like, his turn was so good. His balance is so good, and he could just tag the hell out of the ball. It was a great goal, but it's not a repeatable goal. Like, you don't score from 25 yards out more than once every 2 months. Like, not even the best, other than Messi and I guess Ronaldo in his prime. Nobody does that. And what Josh Sargent, so this goal is a little bit of fool's gold, because what Josh Sargent needs to do is refine his off-ball movement, run harder, right? Like, run with purpose at the back line, off the ball, in the way that Matthew Hoppe does, or Jossie Zardes is wonderful at this. Those types of runs that open the game up, put pressure on the back line, deceive the defenders, get yourself into position to score those types of repeatable goals, to get tap-ins, to score from the 6-yard box with your head or your knee or whatever else. He hadn't scored since October. So while I'm happy that he broke his slump, I need to see more. And part of this is Werder Bremen just being an awful team to watch and not really having much in the way of consistent and a applicable buildup. But part of it is, like, the run makes the pass, man. Schalke stinks too, but Hoppe makes those runs and he gets himself into position. So I just want to see more from Josh Sargent. I still have more stock in him than any other young forward in the U.S. setup. But the gap between him and the guys chasing him has narrowed considerably over the past year.
We've got a little note here from noted brain surgeon in Einstein, Anders Aarhus, that Josh Sargent just needs to absorb Matthew Hoppe like Kirby. So if you're imagining that, just get that little visual in your head. What about you? What about you, Dave? What'd you see? What'd you like? I know
I'd
you
like to follow up on Doyle's excitement overseas and then tell about how it sucks. No, I was excited to see Tyler get his first goal. Well finished, too. It was, whatever. Knockdown shot, but he was pretty calm to finish.
Bundesliga goal.
Of course, right. Because Champions League. And I still think he's the most exciting player in the pool. I think he has the potential to be world-class at his position like no other player in the U.S. pool, as well as be valuable for the national team. I think that position's at defensive midfield, and I don't think he's really that high on the depth chart at Leipzig in that spot. He's been playing mainly right back and right wing back, where I think he's sort of taken over the number one spot there. And the way they play, it allows him to float inside and sometimes stretch wide. And so he does a lot of things. I'd like to see him play inside more often, but I also like to see him play. So it's been good to see him play. Leipzig lose, but they're still the second best team in the Bundesliga, and he's a pretty locked-in top 14 guy there.
You had an interesting tweet, Doyle, over the weekend as all this is happening. Walk people through what that was, the idea behind it, and what you're thinking when it comes to Tyler Adams. Because, my God, here we are again, positionality. Where's he play?
Well, I still think that his upside is higher out wide as a right back or a right wing back, which is where he's playing. But as a U.S. national team fan, we need him more as a defensive midfielder. And he has said it's the position that he wants to play. It is his position. People like David are very high on him as a D mid. I'm very high on him as a D mid as well. I just think his ceiling as a right back or right wing back is like Real Madrid. And I think his ceiling as a D mid might be like Borussia Mönchengladbach. So the essence of the tweet is, if this is all that Tyler Adams ever becomes, right? And I don't think he's done improving. Let's make that clear, because a lot of people, I think, willfully misread the tweet. But like that, in the hypothetical, if all Tyler Adams ever is a utility guy for a top 3 Bundesliga side, plays a lot of wing back, plays some as a D mid, sometimes as a pressing 8, sometimes as a right back, would you be stoked or would you be disappointed? I mean, to be clear, this is one of the top dozen or so teams in the world.
Yep. I think so. When I hear that description, the first name that comes to mind is Ji-Sung Park, who was obviously a bit more of an attacking player, but played every big game, would play anywhere, coach trusts him, and then was the star of his national team at a higher level. David Alaba is like that for Austria in that he plays 5 spots for Bayern Munich, but I think he might be the second best non-attacking player in the world right now. For Tyler, I'd be fine with that. You want him in those games. You want him in those teams week in and week out, getting better, playing at the highest level. And already he can play one spot 1 week and then come to the national team and play another spot because he's shown he can do it at club and national team level in his young career. So all of that I'm fine with. I think his ceiling is higher. And so there would be a level of, was it injuries that stopped him? Was it a situation? Was it him not getting better? That I think you kind of look back and be like, I thought there could have been more. But for the national team, I think that's still a great future.
Would you rather see him stick around in Leipzig with this role, or would you prefer to see him drop down to a Wolfsburg or something like that, where they're like, we're paying $20 million to bring you in to be our number 6?
I think I'd want the second one.
Yeah.
I think that he can show that he can be elite at that spot. And I think my idea of him at the highest level is a rotational 6 for one of those 5 or 6 best teams. Maybe he's not the guy. He's not Makelele. He's not Conte, whatever it is. But he's in that group where he's going to play a lot. And I think he can prove that. The other thing with Leipzig, which you even notice with their own guys that they brought through, like Yusuf Poulsen, is they just are churning so many players through that it feels tough to say they're really locked in 100% on making sure you are the one that they can sell on. Because at the same time that Tyler Adams came in, so did Isaac Haidara, who started at right wing back and now plays central midfield and is the guy that they bought for 25 mil and are going to sell for 50, same as they did with Naby Keita. And so I think for Tyler, if he goes to a club that's specifically focused on his value and his future, it could work out better for him in the long run.
So, I mean, as I listen to you guys, it sounds like, and I think about the situation, that maybe Tyler's just in this, you have different windows and you have alternating sort of motives and flavors of not the month, but guys that you're saying, okay, that's the investment we need to pay off right now. So we have to get behind that player. Do you think it hurts his development to be in this situation at all, Doyle, if we're talking about him being a 6 rather than the alternative, which he may not want, it may be too early for it. Maybe that they sell in the summer and now he is that defensive midfielder and they've been waiting for that moment. I don't know. I'm just trying to think through the situation in my head and think through it, maybe how Tyler would be thinking of it too. I mean, he has had some injuries here that have really disrupted him. So it would make sense that they might say, okay, well, it's Haidara's time. We need to sell him. We know we can. We invested more in him because ultimately Tyler is from the family and we know the transfer fee wasn't anywhere near that.
Well, Haidara was from Salzburg as well. That's the other thing is there's like 5 dudes from Salzburg coming through for a year.
Well, there'll be 5 more. There'll be 5 more, on the back end of that too. Yeah.
So I think either way, he's going to develop well, and barring injury, he's going to develop well enough, whatever position he plays, to be, I think, clear-cut starter at defensive midfield for the U.S. men's national team. And I say that as someone who really likes Jackson Newell and James Sands. There's a couple other young kids, like Johnny Cardozo has been impressive. None of those guys can impact the game the way Tyler Adams can impact the game as a defensive midfielder. Just he's generational in terms of his ability to win those balls and to just destroy plays and create transition opportunities, which is something that we saw Greg Berhalter lean more towards in the second half of 2020 and then hopefully, this coming week. That said, I do think that if he drops down to a smaller Bundesliga team, one that does commit to him being the guy that they want to develop as a world-class 6, I think he would be more likely to become a world-class number 6 and to hit his absolute apex at that position. I'm thinking of a guy like Zakaria for Mönchengladbach. Like he's going to get sold for $60 million to, I don't know, who do you think, Chelsea? Like he's gonna go to somebody who like has one of the biggest bags in the world. I think that on his current trajectory with Leipzig, right now it's tough to imagine that happening for Tyler Adams as a D-mid. But also things can change because 3 months ago, he was playing a little bit more as a defensive midfielder. You know, we've seen coaches all around the world, especially in Leipzig, especially in the Bundesliga, be willing to change formations and tactics. But if at the end of the year, Tyler Adams has spent the last 6 months playing almost exclusively right back and right wing back, I wouldn't hate at all if Hertha Berlin came in, spent $20 million on him, and said, we're making you our 6. I don't think that would show a lack of ambition on Tyler Adams' part. He's already been to a Champions League semifinal. I think it would show some ambition in terms of wanting to prove that he can be the next, N'Golo Kante.
Oh, Doyle's dreaming about that Matteo Guendouzi, Tyler Adams midfield covering it all. Something to point out in terms of Tyler specifically.
I got a Hertha Berlin scarf right back there.
Yeah,
right. It sounds like Sabitzer might be heading out. He's one of the most sought after players. Campbell's 31. So there may be a conversation already going on, which is, hey, we're not playing you week in and week out here, but we have played you there and we like you. I think he got voted man of the match at the start of Bundesliga multiple times from central midfield. You are the future of this spot. This is just the timing and this is the way it works, which would be great. The other thing is Nagelsmann might be gone in a month or two to another job. So then that changes things as well.
I wonder who would take over in Leipzig if
that could change things. And that's what I'm saying about the windows. Is that things change quickly for these clubs that are trying to like capitalize on investments, like a 6-month window. I mean, snap your fingers, results, something else, a big sale, the dominoes start falling, things can change fast.
But I will say this, I hope he doesn't leave quickly because I'm pretty sure they're the most entertaining team in the world week in and week out is RB Leipzig. So I enjoy tuning in to watch him play.
You know who's gotten really entertaining this year is Atletico Madrid. Did you see the Suarez goal? Like that was a Barcelona goal. And just the switch to the 3-5-2 from the 4-4-2 has made them like infinitely better to watch. And that happened.
They're going to win the league by 10 points.
They are. That came against Valencia. So there's your with Yunus Musa on the field. So there's your Yanks abroad tie-in, Weeby.
All right, I'll somehow transition off that to Brenden Aaronson and Mark McKenzie making their debuts this week, and that's what I'm going to focus on. We saw Aaronson in that friendly get a kind of a scrappy little goal, but a great start for him from a confidence perspective, and then gets the DAP from Jesse and comes on as a substitute in a 2-0 win for Salzburg in Austria. Mark McKenzie, though, man, they threw him right in. Genk wasn't playing around. Straight in against the league leaders in Club Brugge. Now, they lost 3-2. I think, like, raw numbers, it was pretty good. I went back and watched the extended highlights. A lot of the attacks that resulted in goals came down that left side, but it looks to me more than, like, individual errors on the plays by McKenzie, that it was more just, like, he doesn't really know his teammates yet. Like, the movement between them, the first one was a busted offside trap where he pushes forward, but the other center back drops, and then there's a goal. He's trying to recover. He can't get back. Another, he just got cut on. And another, they were trying to play over the top of his head. But it kind of feels like he's still feeling out his teammates. But to be dropped into the back line against the league leaders for Genk, that's a lot of faith. Now, they are waiting to see, I think, if one of those center backs, they got the 3 Colombians, will get sold. Sounds kind of like the guy he started for, Jean-Luc Omi. It sounds like he's going to get sold, but we shall see. There's been a lot of offers over the last year and a half. So congratulations to Mark. Congratulations to Brenden. I'm sure much, much more to come. Congratulations to Canadians abroad. If you haven't been paying attention, Kyle, come to Besiktas Laren, 12
just
goals.
Lit the league on fire.
Yeah, dude, he's second overall in the Turkish
UConn
league.
legend. UConn legend.
Second overall. Besiktas is first place. They got a nice little cushion. Like, things are coming good for Kyle in Turkey. That's awesome to see. Him and Atiba just tearing it up. And Jonathan David, that took a little while at Lille, but he's finally firing here. He had a couple, what you said, game winners.
Game winners the last 2 weeks. 1-0 this week, 2-1 last week to draw them level with PSG at the top of the French league.
Yep. We'll see what happens with him. He's kind of in the same position as maybe at a different level as Reggie, where some of the ownership issues with Lille and then also Boavista are in, I don't know, in disarray, in doubt. And we'll see what happens with both those guys. But
they're just waiting for one of us to win the Mega Millions and come and take over.
Oh, dude, how sick would that be?
I was so close on Friday. I got 0 numbers right, which is
wow.
I'm not even playing. I'm out of the game. I can't even win.
It would have worked out perfectly.
Yeah.
Can I still go play? Is it still available?
No, I don't know. There was a big jackpot. I was told to go in and buy a ticket. And I
might have to go do that because I think if we go buy Boavista and we just go live in Portugal for the rest of our lives and look, There's ambition, and there's just trying to keep him in the first division, baby.
Just so you know,
he would want us to buy Belenenses instead.
Yeah.
Make them a super club, which we would have to do because it's EG. Shout out, my guy.
also because we want to live in Lisbon. That's our dream scenario.
True.
We also would exclusively sign Central Americans and then push them through to the rest of Europe. That would be our business model.
I actually like this. I'm going down this rabbit hole. So each of us could have our own little fiefdom of signings. You obviously are going to really clean up on Central America, the Caribbean, maybe a little USL Championship. Just skip that MLS level,
but
just pull them
come on, are there really players in that league? Just kidding.
Oh boy, could be fun. All right, how about this? As we keep on rolling here, we're a week away from this January camp paying off. You don't have to keep this with U.S. national team players or ones in the U23 camp because that camp keeps getting whittled down and guys keep leaving and who can keep up. But what is the MLS quote-unquote young player, define it how you will, that you're rooting for in 2021? Who's your guy, Dave? Who do you want to succeed? Who do you just you'll be looking at the box scores, watching the games, just going, come on.
Well, that list is a little too long for me to get into. So there's half of Tacoma Defiance's ever appearances are on that list. So I'm not going to go with that one. First one I was thinking this national team, Benji Michel, both from a personality, great guy. And I'm intrigued with him as a player. I think of him sort of like a Jordan Morris, more of a center forward in college, playing out on the wing. Doesn't play like a natural winger, but is effective. So I'm interested by him. And then Jesus Ferreira of it was bad last year. For a guy who started a national team game in his first appearance at the 10 a year ago in a January camp and was
at the 9. He was at the 9.
At the 9, right. Yeah, of course. And was rising. And this year, everything went wrong for him. He was healthy and he just could not find his feet. And for a club that had some struggles, obviously, right? The pandemic, and then they got knocked out of they got taken out of the tournament, so he didn't play soccer for 5-6 months, everything that went on. So I'm hopeful to see him reach his level and reach what I think he can do.
What do you see in him?
With Jesus?
Yeah.
A lot of things that no one else in the pool sees. Just an idea of the one-touch pass at a different time, cut across defenders, in tight space on the top of the box, a run that pulls guys out where I feel like a lot of other people aren't making that run. It's not pure speed. He's clean on the ball, and I've seen him in moments collect himself and finish well into the top corners coming in off the wings. So I don't know if that's the spot for him. But whenever I watch him play, I always feel like the things he does well or the things he tries are things that I don't see a lot of other players try, especially in our pool. And so that's what's exciting about him to me.
I'm trying to work this out as I look at the depth chart. Feels like Pepe is pushed ahead if you're talking about 9s, and you already have a DP there in Hara.
And I don't think that's his spot.
Yeah, no, he's more of like a second forward, more sort of underneath. Requarte at the 10, who they seem to really like. O'Brien's on the wing. Could he play wing? Maybe. Where does he get the minutes here? If he's not producing, who comes out of the lineup, and where does he get minutes?
Well, I think if Paxton's not healthy, he's probably a starter on a wing. If Acosta's not healthy, he might be a starter because Requarte will play deeper at times like he did in the playoffs. So I think there's 2 spots there, 3 if you rotate in the 2 wingers that he could be getting minutes at going into the year. But if he plays the way he can play after 2 weeks, he's arguably a locked-in starter. It's not like he's that far off, and it's not like this is a team that has so many pieces that are untouchable throughout the lineup, and Franco Jara didn't even play well. Yeah, so he might be fighting for the second spot at center forward at times as well. I would like to put this out here now. Anders, timestamp this. I'm the Ricardo Pepi guy on the show. So in 2 years, when he starts for the national team, he's the guy. Doyle said it's Sargent. I'm the Ricardo Pepi guy. That has to be locked in. This little box right here.
Gotcha. So I'll make sure.
Wait, Pepi is awesome. I thought you just said you don't see Pepi as a 9.
No, I said Ferrer. Jesus. Okay. I don't think that's his finish spot.
All right, Doyle, go through your Rolodex. Who you rooting for?
There's 2 big ones. Just for the sake of the national team pool, Daryl Dike. If he hits his apex as a center forward, we're talking about a $10 or $20 million type of guy. And as high as I am on Josh Sargent and Ricardo Pepi and Matthew Hoppe, the question who are we rooting for? If DK just hits what I think is his ceiling this year, then we don't have to worry about whether or not Hoppe can keep this up or whether or not Sargent actually starts working off the ball. Like, we have the answer. So DK is a big one. And then Pomykal. I think Pomykal is a Champions League player. If he comes back healthy, even coming off of surgery and with a hip injury last year, he was still so clearly the best player on that Dallas team when he was out there. Elite ball winner, elite ball security, spraying through balls, driving forward with the ball. He is a guy in that Tyler Adams, Weston McKennie tier for me. So those are the two big ones.
How would you recommend, should we be protecting our hearts here?
I don't know. Treat it all like it's CCL, man.
just gird yourself and prepare for the blow, huh?
Free space is disappointment.
Yeah.
But the good thing about the pool right now is, like, as much as I want that, Sam Vines is another one. It'd be nice to have another left back. Like, none of it is existential. If DK doesn't pan out, if all we have for center forward is a bunch of 20-year-olds who are starting in the Bundesliga, that's pretty good. If all we have for central midfield is, Gio Reyna and Yunus Musa and, Johnny Cardozo, and like, that's a whole lot of talent coming through. If all we have at left back is Anthony Robinson and George Bello and, Chase Gasper's our fifth string left back, and he's really, really good. Like, we're in a better spot in terms of player pool depth than we have literally ever been in the entire 35 years that I've been watching the U.S. men's national team.
I was feeling that when we were talking about Tyler Adams. Like, there's an element of a little bit of disappointment in our voices, as he is a spot starter and crucial still piece for a top 3 team in the Bundesliga. Whereas in the past, we would be talking about, like, a guy at Hertha Berlin that's still in the youth squad.
Reading in the championship.
Yeah. I mean, it's just such a different world than it was, a decade ago, 6-7 years ago.
It's a different world than it was 3 years ago.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah. So fair. I'm rooting for James Sands. The man has been unlucky, extremely unlucky. What, in 2019, did he break his arm and his collarbone? Yep. Like, many broken things. And then he broke his foot last year. So, like, he gets like 16 to 20 starts, and we're like, hell yeah. James Sands, you're looking great, and then he gets injured. So I'm rooting for James Sands. I think he's another one of those guys that has top 5 league potential, just has to put together for a full season and be healthy to be bought. I mean, nobody's going to buy you with a broken foot. So NYCFC undergoing change. That midfield, I mean, you don't sell Alex Ring, I don't think, if you don't have a ton of faith in James Sands and what he can do. And they've said that over and over and over, that he is, in their mind, one of the most underrated players in the league. 22 had him at 6. Good plug there. So James Sands for me is that guy. But since Charlie isn't here, can I just throw out a couple names?
I'm about to throw out 15 names. So go.
Tajon Buchanan for Charlie. Anthony Fontana for Charlie. Those are the two. Those are the two key ones that I feel like Charlie's
find a way to
for.
work Teal Bunbury into it again.
Like, how young is young? Like, how young is young? Here's one. Go ahead.
I was gonna, for NYCFC, because Sands is obviously the big one, but they've really not given Justin Hack an opportunity. And they signed Andres Yassin now on the wing, who was the best attacking player they've had in their academy outside of Gio Reyna. Whether that means he'll hit, I don't know, but their coaching loved him. They were so excited about him as a player. And now it feels like Matriza's gone. You don't know what the depth is across the front 3. We don't know what CFG is going to do with other pieces. So maybe they have a shot.
Here's one from Joe Hutchison on Twitter. He wanted us to talk about the reported Serie A interest in Aaron Herrera, Benevento, who didn't get Brian Reynolds. And we're like, all right, let's go to Sandy and get Aaron Herrera.
No, as Doyle said last show, you want a right back? You go to the factory, which is United States national team youth players. And it's like that. It is literally, we could have done this list of players you're excited about, and I could have named 5 right backs.
Yeah.
We didn't talk about Joe Scally, who already is on a Bundesliga team and has played 52 minutes in MLS?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You could do that. I love Aaron Herrera. I think he's a national team level player. The pool might be really deep at that spot, and it might change the amount of caps he gets. He is the best thing RSL has done in 5 years as a club on every level. And it doesn't surprise me that he could play at that level. The question would be, what's the amount you're going to get for what you if you don't have ownership, like, is it more valuable to have him there for another year than to sell him? Or for RSL, is it, We want to show that we have a pipeline.
You have to show at this point. If you're RSL at this point, you have to show, because you lost Ledesma, you lost Soto, you lost Taylor Booth. You haven't flipped. You developed this good crop of 97s, which 2 years ago it looked like it was going to be a generation-defining group. But Corey Baird's been, sold within the league. Justin Glad has stagnated. Herrera is the one who has done the best out of them. And if there is a Serie A offer, you have to show that you are this pathway to the biggest leagues in the world, because that is what 95% of players that you're going to bring into your academy want. So I think if this is legit and the money's right, Aaron Herrera is that good. There's a half dozen. I watch a lot of the Bundesliga. There's at least a half dozen Bundesliga teams he could walk into that lineup and start for. And I don't doubt that it's the exact same way in Serie A. And it would be good for RSL as a club to show that kind of path and the kind of loyalty to helping their kids, their academy kids, their homegrown kids fulfill their ultimate dream, which again is for 95% of players, it's to go to the biggest leagues in the world.
Let's give people out there that are wondering, because maybe they don't watch a ton of RSL and they don't just nerd out on this stuff like we do, about Aaron Herrera. How would you describe him in a sentence? My sentence would be awful to play against. He just looks like somebody that, like, you get on his side and you're like, nah.
Yeah.
Like, not from, I know.
Yeah.
Like, he's physical.
I think
he's got good size.
Like
he can play the ball. He just is nasty. Like,
yeah.
He's nasty. He's also two-footed. He could play on the right side and the left side. He's a really good passer. He's not a get all the way to the end line and whip in a cross. But he might have that in his game. It's just that RSL has never been structured enough to use their fullbacks like that. But he's like a less exciting version of all these young right backs that have gone to Europe over the last couple of years, or might be going to Europe, momentarily.
Just to point out, RSL might be pretty bad if they sell Herrera. But RSL might be pretty bad.
But maybe on the flip side, we're talking about what does it mean for the club? Maybe now is the time where you do this.
Yeah.
You don't have an owner sitting there saying that we have to be good. No, I'm not going to sell my best player. Like, maybe you just got to do it. You say, hey, this is part of us making it a better situation for a prospective owner. Yes, there's money incoming, but it also proves that perhaps this investment in the academy is worthwhile in the long term. Aaron Herrera is a great player.
And to Doyle's point, they missed
MLS
out
defenders hit me up and be like, I like watching this guy play.
Yeah. They missed out on a lot of these academy pieces. They've also missed out on some probably like middle level sales that a normal team would have made. João Plata comes to mind as the big one of just putting yourself in the world market. And a lot of that was due to the chaos that was their structure up until this year. And so maybe that's a good way, even if you don't have the new owner yet, to reset your image both in the market and to your, teams.
Signal the players as well as other clubs like, hey, we'll actually sell them if you come to us.
Yeah.
All right. Before we get to the mailbag, Tommy Scoops, Tom Bogert, at Tom Bogert on Twitter, reporting Vancouver Whitecaps have made an offer for Porto and Brazil Youth International 10, Otavio. Sounds dope. He's out of contract in the summer. The Whitecaps reportedly offering $5 million and then $2 million a year. It's 25.
He's a full-time starter for FC.
Yeah, he's got 166 appearances. I mean, Porto, that's a team that's going to flip. I mean, you have to wonder what's happened, why they didn't flip him. Maybe he was part of their success, so that's why they didn't do it.
Yeah,
but
he's been
Milan,
there for 5 years.
Reportedly Milan also interested here. So Vancouver Whitecaps, like FC Cincinnati, going up against some big boys.
What I said about Papu Gomez, I think that this is a Vancouver roster that has pieces around it. They just don't have a central piece to it all. They don't have anything that makes other guys better. They don't have anything that they can guarantee when they go into a game. This is what we're going to get from this. And so everyone else can figure out their role and how they match up in this matchup around that. Cavallini is good, but he's not that guy. And everything else is a pretty young piece. The center backs are solid. You get some decent play from Nowinski. I'm not going to talk about Ali Adnan because I don't know if he's going to be there. And he is like a total curveball on his own. So if you bring in a player of this caliber, this age, to run things around immediately, this team is interesting to watch to me, and they're competitive for a playoff spot for sure. I don't know if they're in the real door for a player like this, because a guy like this on a free, that's why Milan comes up. There are X amount of teams in Europe that have no transfer budget that look at a player on a free. He started 5 Champions League games this year and scored a goal for Porto in the group stage. That is very rare, so it's going to be tough.
And maybe that's where the Whitecaps come in and say, hey, we'll give you $5 million. It's more than you would get in the summer. I don't know. We shall see. Atlanta United, busy. Franco Ibarra reportedly headed there. He's just a young Argentine center mid. Lisandro Lopez, that deal is done. There are only 2 players in Major League Soccer. I have to go check and make sure one of these is still in Major League Soccer that are older than Lisandro Lopez.
I thought you were going to say yourself.
No, I'm not. No. I'm younger than Lisandro Lopez.
No, I understood.
Yeah. Who are those players?
Wando.
Wando is one of them. And then the other one is definitely a show favorite. I would say he's more of a Goss favorite. I'm just making sure. I'm going to go check. Ooh, I don't think we've updated that player page. I think he might be out of the league. So I think Lisandro Lopez might be the second oldest player. But
who is the other one?
If Rod Fanny was still around, baby, he would be 39. Rod would be 39 years old. Minor Figueroa, actually, because Andres threw in Boniak in the chat. Minor Figueroa is the, I guess, third oldest now. My guy's 37. Does not look a day over 25.
Minor is going to play another 10 years.
Oh, I love Minor. He is the man. He is absolutely the man. All right. You guys, we want to do the mailbag here? You guys ready? Yeah. All right. How about this one?
No, an option? No?
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's true. It's not. It's just a matter of timing. Nick Toole on Twitter wanted us to share our favorite memories that will always give us a serotonin boost. His is MLS Cup 2018 or that year's Eastern Conference Final first leg. He is clearly an Atlanta United fan. I will say that MLS Cup that year, massive, just sort of like, I remember standing at the top of like the concourse above the stadium there, and it's absolutely packed, going crazy. Everybody's standing the entire game basically. And just like having goosebumps. I was standing up there, I want to say with you, Doyle, and Kalen, and I want to say Bobby. And we were just all in awe. Just, wow, this is happening. And then we went out and, did a real kick-ass Continental activation at halftime, Dave. Let's go! All the energy in the world. Let's go into a microphone.
Everyone, make sure you sign up.
All right, well, I think of my serotonin boost. You guys got a serotonin boost moment that you can share with the world?
Mine ties in perfectly to all of what just happened, which is Lisandro Lopez playing for Argentina in 2008 against the United States at Giant Stadium, packed. I think it was the first time I'd ever been to a sold-out football stadium for a soccer game. Tim Howard still says it was his greatest game of all time. 0-0 draw. He saved a penalty kick for Argentina, and it was Messi, and I guess Messi was young at the time, but it was everyone. It was the big dogs, and the U.S. went toe-to-toe with them, and the crowd was like, what I remember, split, USA and Argentine fans, and I was right on the line, and so there was an Argentine drummer near me, but we had the USA fans, we were chanting, and it was June, and I had a youth soccer game that morning, so I show up just sweaty, and then it rains to close out the game, and everyone is just loving it and jumping up and down, and there's a serotonin for you, baby. So let's go Lisandro Lopez in Atlanta.
Oh, man. May those times come back to us as soon as it is safe, because there's just nothing. There's nothing like those moments in a stadium. Doyle, what's your moment there? Were you at that game, by the way?
I was. I was actually the first U.S. game where I played trumpet in the section. So I was with the brass and the drum, and I was leading it was Sam's Army at that point, with some nascent American Outlaws joining in as well. And to have that game was awesome. It was a friendly, but both teams were out for blood. I think Pablo got a red card. And it was, as you said, it was early Messi, but it was like, we knew he was Messi at that point. Like, we knew that this was going to be one of the 2 best players in the world, and, eventually became the best. And it was a spectacular performance from Tim Howard. And then that section, the U.S. section, that game was incredible. It was absolutely the wall of noise for the entire game. But it started fading, I want to say, around the 75th minute. And then the 80th minute, the skies open up and the rain comes down, and it refreshed everybody. And so for the last 10 minutes of that game, it was just constant singing. It was a day-long tailgate as well.
Which explains, by the way, I was going to say the 75th minute, everybody runs out of a little bit of gas, and they get like a slap across the face, and like, we're back, baby.
I might be wrong, but I think the U.S. was playing man down. I think Sasha Kleshchin went on like a one-man break and like curled one just wide.
I remember
that was like another resurgent moment where everyone's like, we're in this.
Was it Sasha or was it Benny?
I can't remember now. I thought it was Sasha in my head, but I can go back and look.
Yeah.
Give us
that game was the best friendly I've ever been to.
Give me a different serotonin moment, Doyle, and I can throw some stuff down here if you want some time to think, but
you go ahead and throw some stuff
all right,
down.
Here we go. So I would throw a lot of different World Cup games in there that are not the U.S. from 2010. I was at the opener, Brazil and Croatia, and that was, I mean, you could just feel what that game meant to the entire country. And I would actually argue that every time Brazil played in that World Cup, 2014, that is sort of like bucket list moments where previously jam-packed, smoggy, crazy Sao Paulo, you would walk out and just be like, there's literally no one anywhere. We cannot even get a taxi ride to get where we want to go right now. You have to just go to a restaurant and watch the game. That one was a good one. England, Uruguay. I was covering it, but I felt more like a spectator with Luis Suarez and everything that like the love-hate that had been there with England fans. That was amazing. I would say, and this one sticks in my brain forever, Roma, El Salvador at Red Bull Arena was like the random stupid game that I went to because I had nothing better to do and just like ended up partying with Salvadoran fans for the entire night.
A great RBA night was Haiti qualifying out of the group stage. I think the most recent Gold Cup at Red Bull Arena, and then they just did laps. And like Etienne was the king of it all.
Oh, of course.
And then I come out of the stadium and the brass band is just playing on the corner right outside Red Bull Arena. And everyone's just dancing and partying. And then like people messaged me from like people that I don't talk to consistently. And they were like, whoa, did you see this party in New York? And I'm like, I'm in that. I'm there. I'm one of the people. I don't know what's going on. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was there. I'm pretty sure Cardi B put it up too. Shout out to Cardi.
The opposite of that is at Red Bull Arena is doing the post-game show after Costa Rica beat the U.S. and having the Costa Rican fans surround our set and just revel in their victory. But I think my serotonin moment is going to be both the opener in 2010 and then Landon's goal. The opener I watched with my brother at Power and Light in 2010, and that was a really awesome, fun moment to be able to do that with him. And then Landon's goal I was covering for MLSsoccer.com. But come on, let's be real. I was like very deep emotionally in the moment and very downtrodden. I remember looking around and like, I remember Davey Arnaud was there and Davey and I just kind of locked eyes and it's like, oh God, I can't believe this happened. And then when the goal was scored, just, you know, probably unprofessionally, I definitely remember jumping around on top of things and high-fiving. But that feeling of like, oh my God, we did it and experiencing it with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of other people. For me, a very early sort of in the professional side, but also in my U.S. national team fandom side, because I ride to soccer late. Just such a foundational moment for me. You got one now? Go ahead.
What else like? Okay.
Oh, no. Yeah, I mean, that one's pretty good. You know, it's hard to watch that without getting goosebumps. If I want to keep it to MLS, just the entire 2012 Quake season. Getting to watch that team, you know, I will periodically, there's a good like 15-minute sort of season recap kicking around on YouTube somewhere. I will periodically watch that because it was insanity seeing them rescue so many late draws and victories. Like stop. I think if the game had ended, if soccer was like an 85-minute game that year, they would have had 45 points. They finished with like 67 because so much in like it's Goonies, man. Baby. Yeah, the magic of Buckshot. I love that place.
My MLS one, which I think I've said on this before, is the Canada before the first MLS Cup, Seattle-Toronto in Toronto, which was, I'd say, MLS Cup 2015, which I've thought about a lot with Columbus hosting and winning this year. That was my first MLS Cup, and it was one of these like, wow, this is what MLS can be moments for me. But then the like, that in Toronto with the buildup in the city. And then I didn't know that they sang the anthem as fans. And so the woman who hosts it, she sings the first like bar and then it just like comes from everywhere. And I was down on the field because I was trophy handler and it was like, whoa, what is that noise? And it was like, oh, whoa, MLS is cool. This is fun. We should do this all the time.
I mean, we could do this all day long because as you talk of these, I'm thinking of more and more and more. I'm going back to Canada. The first ever Impact game in MLS. And again, this is another Davey Arnaud reference. Davey scores the game winner on that and then does the turtle celebration. But that Stade Olympique, just it's insane how loud that place gets.
Mm-hmm.
And I think back to Champions League final second leg, which was that hurt, but it was awesome. But the first leg in Mexico City at Azteca, when they came out and kind of punched Club America in the face after Moises Munoz had been talking mad trash in the media, that was a good moment as well, as were the tacos before and after that game. So those are all fun. Hit us up if you have those moments. We love to do this. We love to do this, to talk about the things that are special to us. And of course, soccer is that spot in our lives.
Can I close us out on this email?
Yeah, give me one more. Mike Donovan on Twitter says the MLS player most likely to leave his current team and immediately win MLS Cup, aka the Brady. I mean, it's obviously Bradley Wright Phillips because he went to LAFC last year. Now he's going to Columbus. So I'll just answer that for you.
Well, first of all, Brady hasn't won the Super Bowl with Tampa yet. That's one. Number two,
neither has BWP.
But that's the point. Like, isn't the point of Brady saying like someone who has won repeatedly somewhere and then goes to a new team and wins it? Like that's
oh my god.
No, Bradley Wright Phillips is like the Phillip Rivers, right? Like if Phillip Rivers signed and like that's
Lordy.
Like a great like Hall of Fame caliber player who has never won it. So am I wrong here?
I don't really know.
No, probably not. Right. Now I'm trying to find the guy that would be the Brady then.
But it's too many quarterbacks.
Who's won multiples?
So like it would be sort of like a Matt Beasler going to Austin.
Yeah, it would be more like if Seattle decided they wanted a younger 10 and Ladero is like, okay, I'll sign with Austin.
Yeah.
And leads them to an MLS Cup.
Or Michael. Leaves Toronto.
Yeah, Michael or Josie leaves Toronto,
Yeah, those are good ones. Okay, fine. I felt decent about mine, but you've...
Well, the other thing that I was wrong about
shredded
Levy is he'd already left New York.
No, that's fair.
This was his second
stop. It isn't exact. I get it. You don't have to pile on.
Yeah,
all right, anyway, continue.
Okay, well, you're about to get piled on a little bit more, unfortunately for you. Dave from Austin, who emailed back and said, I'm following up from my email sent last week regarding Goss storming out. And then he said, yes, we were right about what I was talking about. And then he said, I was watching you guys on my iPad, and I jumped up from excitement when you started to read my email. I ran to my wife to tell her of this great occasion. She took a glimpse of my screen and shrugged off and said, what's the big deal about three bald guys reading a boring soccer email? Ooh. Sorry to Weeby. On a quick glance, you looked like you were bald wearing that hat. And then he follows up by saying, one more question. Whatever happened to the scoreboard? Which we have nothing for you there.
That's a part of extra time lore that that is three bald guys. If you wanted to get the reference in, now you have three because Simon, of course,
and we make chocolate, so we do it all.
Oh man, the scoreboard. Should we do just like as a celeb? We should have done that for the 25th season, right? I mean, it was kind of like curtailed, so it wasn't the full. Should we do that for the 26th? I don't know. I think maybe just imagine what it was like. Those were the halcyon days. Did I say that right?
It would be a very extra time of us to do it a year later.
Yes, it would. Or say we'll do it and then never do it, actually. It's probably more accurate. All right, that's it for us. Hope you enjoyed today's show. Good time talking soccer with you guys. Good time reminiscing on some awesome times past. MLSsoccer.com, the MLS app. That's your source for all the news that you need in Major League Soccer. We will be back on Thursday. You want us to talk about something? Let us know. 401-206-0MLS. Extra time at MLSsoccer.com. Enjoy your week, everybody.